The word Viking often conjures images of horned helmets, dragon-headed ships, and fierce warriors raiding distant shores. But while Norse seafarers were known for their expeditions, most of their lives were spent not in battle, but in their homes and villages, managing daily life in a rugged landscape. Between the 8th and 11th centuries, Viking society was built around small rural settlements, where community, survival, and tradition shaped every aspect of life. This blog post takes you deep into a typical Viking village to uncover how these Norse people truly lived, from their homes and governance to their diet, family roles, warfare, and innovations. The Viking village, layout and life expectancy. Viking villages were typically small, with anywhere from 20 to 100 inhabitants, depending on location and available resources. Settlements were clustered near rivers, fjords, or the sea, with easy access to fresh water, fertile land, and trade routes. Longhouses, the central structure of Viking homes, were built using timber, turf, or stone, depending on regional availability, with thatched or wooden roofs and a central hearth for heat and cooking. Life expectancy in a Viking village was low by modern standards, with most people living into their 40s, though many died much earlier due to disease, injury, or childbirth. Infant mortality was high, and a harsh climate coupled with a physically demanding lifestyle meant survival was not guaranteed. However, those who reached adulthood could sometimes live well into their 50s or 60s. Governance and social hierarchy. Viking society was structured but not feudal. It was built around the Thing, a local assembly where free men could gather to resolve disputes, make laws, and pass judgments. Each village or region had its own thing, and larger ones, such as the Althing in Iceland, were among the earliest examples of parliamentary systems. The social hierarchy was as follows. Jarls, nobility or chieftains, wealthy landowners who led raids, controlled trade, and held political power. Carls, freemen. The majority population comprises farmers, traders, and craftsmen. Thralls, slaves, the lowest class, often captured during raids or born into servitude. They worked in homes, fields, or even as skilled artisans under their masters. A chieftain typically provided leadership and earned loyalty through strength, generosity, and successful warfare. He would host feasts, offer protection, and settle disputes, acting as a ruler and a symbol of unity. Diet and food preparation. Despite their harsh environment, Vikings had a surprisingly diverse and nutritious diet. They were skilled farmers, fishers, and hunters. Their meals often included grains, barley, rye, and oats were made into porridge, flatbreads, and beer. Meat, sheep, pigs, goats, cattle, hunted game like deer and elk. Fish, herring, salmon, cod, fresh, dried, or smoked. Vegetables, cabbage, leeks, peas, onions, and turnips. Dairy, milk, cheese, and butter were common, especially from cows and goats. Fruits, berries, apples, and foraged wild plants. Preserved foods. Pickling and drying were standard preservation techniques, especially for winter. Food was cooked over an open hearth inside the longhouse. Meals were communal, and feasting was a significant part of Viking celebrations, especially during religious rituals or victories in battle. Gender roles and household life. Viking households were family-centered, and while men and women had distinct roles, Viking women enjoyed more rights than many of their medieval European counterparts. Men's roles: farming, hunting, building, trade, and warfare, responsible for the political and physical defense of the household and village. Often left for long periods on raids or trade expeditions, leaving women to manage affairs. Women's roles: managed the home, children, and food production. Responsible for textile work, cooking, dairy, and overseeing servants or thralls. Legally allowed to own land, get a divorce, and inherit property. Some women, known as shield maidens, even fought in battles or participated in raids, though these were the exception rather than the rule. Marriage was an economic and social contract, usually arranged but not forced. Women brought dowries and had the right to reclaim them in case of divorce. War and peace. While the Vikings are renowned for their raiding, war was not constant. Villages were peaceful places where farming and community were central, but every free man was expected to be ready for battle if needed. Warfare in Viking life. Weapons were symbols of status. A well-crafted sword or axe indicated wealth. Most warriors fought with axes, spears, or bows. Swords were rarer and expensive. Helmets, round shields, and chainmail offered basic protection. No horned helmets. Raids were organized and purposeful, often targeting monasteries or trade centers. However, Vikings also formed alliances and peace treaties, intermarried with other cultures, and established trade networks stretching from Baghdad to Byzantium to Dublin. Viking innovations and contributions. Despite their reputation as raiders, the Vikings were highly innovative and influential. They contributed to architecture, shipbuilding, navigation, trade, and even law. Key innovations include longships, sleek, fast, versatile vessels that could navigate oceans and shallow rivers alike, a key reason for their success in exploration and conquest. Shipbuilding techniques. Advanced woodworking allowed them to construct sturdy, flexible hulls. Navigation. They used the sun, stars, and possibly early magnetic tools, sunstones, to navigate the open sea. Settlement building. Vikings founded cities such as Dublin, York, and Kiev, leaving a lasting mark on European urban development. Trade and coinage. Vikings traded furs, amber, ivory, and slaves for silk, spices, and silver. Hoards found across Europe attest to their expansive network. Their legal traditions and oral storytelling also contributed to later European literature and systems of law. Conclusion. The Viking village. Beyond the myth life. In a Viking village was far more complex and balanced than the raiding myths often suggest. It was a world where survival required cooperation, skill, and adaptability. Governance was democratic, women had a respected place in society, and innovation was key to daily life and expansion abroad. The Vikings were farmers, traders, explorers, and builders. While war was a part of their legacy, so were diplomacy, craftsmanship, and community. By exploring the real lives of those who lived in Norse villages, we gain a deeper understanding of a culture that shaped much of the medieval world and continues to inspire fascination today.